everybody. Welcome back to More Than Mail from House of Faith in Hudson, Florida. Thanks for being with us tonight. I really appreciate that. The topic of tonight's conversation is God's time versus my time, blurring the lines. And this idea kind of was handed to me by Holy Spirit, partially because I was in a secular band. And there was a lot of driving involved and there was a lot of time involved. And I started thinking a little bit about that and started thinking about how I have approached my walk with God by clearly defining what's my time and what's God's time. For example, Sunday morning, I'm all in. I'm at church. I'm playing in the worship group and everything's great. And then once the service is over, it's on to something else. It's laundry. It's lunch. It's making dinner. And so it's for me, it's very defined, or was very defined. I'm working on it, and that's kind of the point. But the thing too is that mindset makes it okay. So for 4 hours on Sunday, I'm gonna allow God to have some time, and then the rest of the time, that's all my time. Whether it's watching TV, whether it's being on the internet, whether it's music, whatever it is, I looked at it as though that all that time belonged to me, and then that 4 hours on Sunday belonged to God. And when I started my walk at House of Faith 3 years ago, I found myself taking Bible classes on Monday evenings. And then we had worship practice on Saturdays. And all these things started happening, and my wife and I started going to conventions and different things. Even on vacation, we were doing prayer assignments. And all those lines that I had drawn so clearly started to blur a little bit. And as Holy Spirit does, He's bringing me along slowly, and I'm realizing more and more as He reveals more and more. And now I've come to the realization, and I have to give credit where credit's due. My wife, everything that she does is about God. Every word that she says, every moment that she spends, in the prayer closet, or just whatever she's doing, she brings God with her. And I have watched that, and I was resistant to it. I have always felt as though, okay, you know what, I work hard, I spend a lot of time away from home, now this is my time, I deserve to have some downtime. What I didn't realize is that the best downtime is that time spent just with me and God. That's the best. That's rest. I'm not thinking about what I left undone at work. I'm not thinking about the bills. I'm not thinking about anything else. It's just me and God. And one thing that I learned from Elizabeth is that she calls it her war room. She'll go into her war room, and she doesn't even pray. She has no plan when she goes in there. It's just time that she spends with God. And sometimes she gets amazing revelation, sometimes nothing. But it's just rest. It's real rest. It's her heart is resting, her spirit is resting, her soul is resting, and her body is resting. And these things seem to come very natural to her. I know that it was a period of years where she, worked up to that, and so I'm on the beginning end of it, but I see it. I am so blessed that I get to see firsthand how this works and the results. And what I'm finding out is that I have become so involved in so many different things, having to do with prayer, having to do with assignments, having to do with church, having to do with music, having to do with all these things, that there really isn't a whole lot of time that God's not involved. And I'm learning now that, when I kick back in the recliner and I turn on Blue Bloods and watch all the shows that I've already seen 3 or 4 times, there's something tugging at me. that says, you could use your time a little bit more wisely. And because I'm always talking about, oh, I'm going to finish this book, I'm going to do this, I'm going to write a song, I'm going to do all these things. And while I'm watching Blue Bloods, that's not happening. So these are things that Holy Spirit is convicting me of. And I'm starting to come around. I'm starting to realize that all of my time is God's time. And I've also found that the only time that I don't want God involved is if I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing. And He knows anyway, boys and girls, just throwing it out there. But I came to the realization that those lines that I have drawn need to be, you need to let each one go back and forth. God can come over here, I can go back over there. Those lines don't need to be there, because God's involved in everything that we do. And the things that I want to do by myself on my own power and leave God out of it, something goes wrong. Something gets messed up somewhere along the line. But if I let God in on it, for example, today at work, it was late in the afternoon and things just started flying at me. I felt like a hockey goalie. And of course, in my mind, everybody wants everything right now, and I started to get upset about it. I started to get overwhelmed, and I started to get defensive, and all those things that are just completely non-productive. And Holy Spirit reminded me, just sit back and just take a second. Just take a second and breathe. And it's amazing how quickly it happens, but everything just lined up. The priority list just came to me, and I saw what was important, what had to be done right now, and then on down the line. And all the pressure was off of me, and I stopped being a jerk, and I just started taking care of what was in front of me to do. And it's simple things like that. It's not always burning bush kind of stuff. It's just really simple things like that God is involved in. And Holy Spirit will just guide me, and he'll tweak me a little bit, or he'll ask me a question. Do you really need to do that right now? And just in every moment of my life, every situation that comes up, there's a better answer than the one I have. And to get it, all I have to do is open myself up to it. That's the hard part for me, because I want to do things. I want to do it. I want to handle it on my own power. I'm a grown man. I can do this and I can do that, and I don't need anybody's help and all those crazy things. But the thing is, it works out so much better if I let Him help. And I don't have to go back and do it over. Just the simple things. I'm going to read some of the stuff that I wrote down when I was thinking about this. What I wrote down was, what if I stopped doing, talking, and thinking for a little while? What if I just stopped? What happened? And part of me, and I guess it's my upbringing or trying to make up for being a slacker for so long or whatever, but I always feel like I have to be doing something. I always, if the bills aren't getting paid, I have to be doing something to correct that. I have to make some more money. I have to figure it out. I have to do something. I always have to be doing, because in my mind, if I'm not, then I'm just letting it all crash and burn. And to me, that's the worst thing that you can do as a provider, as a father. But taking that time, I'm finding, provides answers. And it goes against the way that I am, because I want to keep pushing. I want to keep forcing. I want to keep striving. I want to keep struggling. I just want to keep, pounding my head on the door, where those easy answers that I get that always turn out so well, it's almost like it deprives me of that. And so that's something to get used to. It's a weird way to look at it, because easier seems like it's better, but in our society, that's not always true. That's not the way we think. We think the harder I'm working, and the important thing is that somebody sees me working hard, so that they know that I'm not just letting it all fall apart. So it scares me when I wrote this. When I wrote, what if I stopped doing, talking, and thinking? Something inside me got worried, and I think what I was asking was, okay, what do I do then? Because I've got to fill that space, right? I have to be doing something. And the answer is nothing. Just stop. And it's hard for me to just get everything out of my mind. It's hard for me to just stop thinking. But what I found is that I have an hour and a half or so drive to and from work every day. And I don't listen to the radio at all. That's my time with God. And it sets me up for the day. It sets me up for, when I'm getting home, and I have this peace and tranquility that are very foreign to me. But it's a very beautiful thing. And so what I found is that when I stop doing those things, I get more done. I get more important things done. Because I can do tasks all day long, and I can keep myself busy, and I can organize my paper clips. But that's not getting anything accomplished. That's not moving me forward in my walk. Either my walk with God or my walk at work, my walk with my family. It doesn't, striving and staying busy doesn't help. But having the right answer and finally understanding that I have access to that. I have access to that information because the Holy Spirit lives within me. And all I have to do is ask. The hard thing for me, and maybe the hard thing for you too, is when I ask a question, I have got to stick around long enough to hear the answer. Because I can ask questions all day long, but if I'm not listening to what's coming back to me, I'm not accomplishing anything. I'm just getting more frustrated. I'm getting myself more and more behind the 8 ball. So what I found overall is that the hard part for me is to stop. The hard part for me is giving up control. The hard part for me is surrender. The hard part for me is just letting God do what God does. Because I have trained myself that I have to do it. I have to do it on my own power. And if I can't do it, then I'm less of a man. When the fact is that if I listen for the right answers, and I listen for the help, and I wait for the right timing, if I wait for God's timing, then I accomplish 1,000,000 times more than I would have on my own. So these are lessons that I'm learning as we speak. So this is not coming from well, you should do it this way. That's not what this is. This is, hey, guess what I learned today? So, and these are things that we go through every day. And the other thing is that every day is a choice. If I make the right choice today, and I spend some time with God today, and I get some answers, and everything flows great, and I feel wonderful, and I feel refreshed, and I feel accomplished, that doesn't carry over to tomorrow or to the next thing that comes up. I have to continue to do that. I have to make it part of my habit system. I have to make it part of the way that I think. I have to make it part of the way that I approach situations and problems and time. I have to make it part of who I am. And what I found is that when I do these things, Holy Spirit just loves it. It's almost like he just can't wait to move on to the next thing to help me through it. But I can always stop it. I can always jump right back in the driver's seat. And then that's when everything just kind of starts falling apart again. But what I've also learned about myself is that I love chaos. Maybe not so much anymore. I hope not so much anymore. Pray to God, not so much anymore. And I know a lot of people. I've lived my life with a lot of people who just had to have problems. You had to have something, either problems to solve or problems that you can blame somebody for, just something. There had to be contention. There had to be something happening that was beyond my control, that was somebody else's fault. It just had to be there. I didn't know what to do without that. But the fact is that it frees me, not having all that, frees me up to do things that matter, to think things that matter, to say things that matter, to spend time with people I love, to spend time with people that I want to get to know, to spend time with God. It frees me up to do those things. And it amazes me how much time I spend just worrying. And one of my mentors defined worrying as a thin trickle of fear. And I've never forgotten that. It just runs through my veins, and it's just this fear that just courses through everything. And there's one way to stop that. There's one way to get rid of it. And that's to stop and let God take over. Let Holy Spirit take over. He's so much better at this than I am. You have no idea. But I have the ability, the God-given ability, to do anything that He asks me to do. He will give me the strength. He will give me the wisdom. He will give me everything that I need to do to accomplish what He wants me to accomplish in any given situation. And like I said, it's not always building Mount Rushmore. It's not always big things. It's little things. It's little tiny things that just make life enjoyable, that make me look forward to the next time. So that's what I want to leave you with, is if you've drawn lines, if Sunday at noon, that's where that line is drawn, and it's time to go pop a beer and watch the football game, let it bleed in. Let God watch the football game with you. You know, because He's a fan of what you're a fan of. What is important to you is what's important to Him. And that was really hard for me to believe, but it's true. It is the absolute truth. And it's fun. When I'm not worried and I'm not striving and I'm not battling against this and that, life is really enjoyable. And there's this thing called peace that I have found that I didn't think I deserved. But now I have it. And I would not trade the peace and the serenity that I have for anything in the world. Control is not worth it. So blur those lines. Don't be afraid to just let God step over. Let Him in. Let Him into all those things that you've tried to handle yourself. Just let Him in, and you will be absolutely so glad you did. And I appreciate your time. Thank you for being here. We'll see you on the next More Than Mail. Thanks. Have a good night.